Hey, AJ here, and today we're gonna make some blueberry polenta scones. Now these scones, first of all, they're very easy. You can actually whip them up on a weekday. They're not like other scones that take hours and hours to make. This whole thing's gonna take you like maybe 30, 40 minutes to make. They're delicious. They can be made gluten-free. They can be made plant-based, but don't click away. They're still gonna be really, really good. This is an adapted recipe from the Bad Manners cookbook, by the way. So I didn't invent this, I'm not pretending to, but I did tweak it a little, and I hope you will make it. So let's get into making your very own delicious, fluffy, guilt-free polenta blueberry scones. All right, so step one is you're gonna preheat your oven to 425 Fahrenheit. Next, you're gonna get a mixing bowl. We're gonna throw some flour in there, some cornmeal, brown sugar, cinnamon. You'll see, we're gonna do lots of cool stuff. So for the flour, I'm gonna use all-purpose, gluten-free. You could use normal flour, you could use oat flour. I've literally made it with every flour that exists, including flowers like lilacs and roses. So we're gonna do 1.5 cups of flour into your mixing bowl. A nice large mixing bowl. All right, 1.5 cups of flour. We're gonna throw in 1 cup of cornmeal. Ideally, it would be finely ground if this is the first time you're making it, but I'm actually gonna use a medium larger grind because I like the kind of grittiness of cornbread, but they all work. So, you know, follow your bliss. Do you. Cornmeal. Man, I am almost out of all this stuff. I've been doing so much baking over the past couple Christmas days. I made brownie cookies last night, cornbread. But anyway, here's our cornmeal, basically what's left of it. Next, you're gonna throw in some sugar. Now, ideally, you're gonna use brown sugar here. Now, Becky, I know you're watching, my #1 fan. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate you so much. But you can swap out the brown sugar for coconut sugar if you'd like. We're gonna throw a tablespoon of baking powder in there. That's just gonna help it rise a little bit, makes things denser. I actually like throwing baking powder into cookies because that's how you get those bakery style big cookies instead of the thin homemade ones, which is the kind my family likes, but I like the big ones. All right, so we got some baking powder in here. We're gonna throw a pinch of salt and a little bit of cinnamon. There we go, all of our ingredients. You're gonna whisk these together until they're nice and evenly distributed. All right, so we have our dry mixture. Next, we're gonna get a measuring cup or mug with a large M on it, and we're gonna get all of our wet ingredients in there. So the first thing we're gonna get is almond milk. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not using a measuring cup, I lost mine. I don't know where it is. I need to go get a new one. Hopefully I'll have a new one before the next video. All right, so you're gonna do 1 cup of almond milk. This could be any plant-based milk. I've used oat milk before. It's pretty good. Have you heard of it? It's pretty good. All right, and we're gonna do 1/4 cup of olive oil. And it doesn't have to be this bougie olive oil, but the bougier the better. This is some fancy olive oil my mom got from a friend from Italy somewhere. I don't know, it tastes way better. But if you can't find this, if you don't have a friend who went to Italy, who then got you bougie olive oil, you know, just use the best stuff you can get at the store. It's not a big deal. I'm not gonna judge you. And the last thing is you're gonna throw 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract into your liquid mixture. All right, next, you're gonna make a little well in the bottom of your big bowl, okay? And then we're gonna pour our milky, oily, vanilla-y mixture into the middle. And then you're gonna wanna fold this using a rubber spatula or a spoon. Even your hands would be okay, because you don't wanna over mix this. So you kinda almost wanna half-ass it, I think is the word. So you kinda wanna half-ass this a little bit, and it's okay, because our goal is we don't want this to become too gummy. Because with normal flour, you can create too dense baked treats. But with gluten-free flour, the risk you run is making it too gummy. All right, so you see how that looks? Kind of chunky. And don't worry, we're still gonna work it a little bit more. I know that looks incomplete. We're gonna throw the blueberries in now. This is the time for your blueberries. So you want 3/4 cup of, I like the frozen ones better. I've actually made it with fresh blueberries before. One, it doesn't make the scones that blue. And I want my blueberry scones to be blue. I like the swirl, I think it looks kind of cool. But 2, it just tastes a little bit more like blueberry throughout. So I'd advise you use the frozen ones if you can get them, and the wild ones if you can get them because they're a little bit smaller. but they all work and they're all good. That's just my favorite version. So 3/4 of a cup of blueberries into this mixture. All right, so now we have our kind of shaggy looking dough. So what you're gonna do, and what I would advise you do, is you take this plop, which makes it sound really yummy, by the way, but we're gonna take this plop of blueberries and cornmeal and throw it on a silicone baking sheet or a baking mat that's already in a baking sheet. Now you could do this separate and cut it and transfer it, but to me that feels like an unnecessary step, because these scones, they're not like, they're gonna get a little taller, a little wider, but they're not gonna like triple in size. This isn't a cake, they're scones. So they're not gonna grow that much, so I found it's a little bit easier to work on the final sort of place that you're going to bake these. So we're gonna take this plop of a dough and you're gonna pour it onto your silicone baking mat. And it doesn't look amazing yet, but don't worry, it will. So our goal here is we're going to try to make a kind of a rectangle, a nice little rectangle that's maybe like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch tall. So I'm gonna start forming this, and then I'll see you in a second when we're gonna cut it. All right, so we have our scones. They are cut into triangles. You can see them just like that. So what I did is I cut them lengthways, and then I cut them across each little rectangle to make these triangles. You might have a couple ugly ducklings, but just call that a rustic scone, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I can totally see it. I sprinkled a little bit of light brown sugar on top of these. It's gonna kind of melt into a little bit of a glaze, which I love on it. My wife, super not into it, so I made a couple without the sugar, but whatever your vibe is. And by the way, Becky, you can do it with coconut sugar, and you can do it with maple sugar too if you don't want to use normal brown sugar. So we have these ready to go. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to throw them in the oven, 425, 12 to 15 minutes. You're going to pull them out, let them sit on the actual mat for a little bit and start to cool for like a couple more minutes. Transfer to a wire rack when they are nice and solid. And then you have an amazing blueberry cornbread dessert, blueberry cornbread breakfast. You're gonna be a very happy camper. You're gonna come back to this video, you're gonna comment below, and you're gonna say, AJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this recipe with me, because I didn't know I needed this scone in my life. And I will reply, you're welcome. And I'll probably give you a little heart as well. So I'll see you in 12 to 15 minutes when it's time to taste test these scones. All right, so we have it, our blueberry scones. They're looking pretty good, the blueberry polenta scones. They've got a nice little brown sugar glaze. I added a little bit of almond milk on top too to help it kind of turn into more of a glaze and less of like a lump of sugar. So this is looking pretty good. This normally when I have my little fairy wife come in and taste test, but she's actually on a podcast right now. So I'm gonna have to taste them myself. Shucks. So my first sort of vibe on this is I feel like I could have mixed it actually a little bit more. I know I say don't over mix it, but this one looks like I could maybe just use a titch more mixing, and I can tell that I used coarse cornmeal instead of fine cornmeal, which often makes it a little bit grittier, a little bit more like cornbread, which is good news for me because I'll be liking cornbread. So let's grab this, and you can see, look at that, we've done it. All right, I'm gonna have a bite now. All right, I don't want to toot my own horn because this isn't my recipe, but man, these are really, really good. They're like not overly sweet because there's sugar in it, but it's not a crazy amount of sugar. And you get that kind of cornbready vibe. The glaze on top really brings it together. The brown sugar flavor comes through. It's not super heavy, but it's very like it's very flavorful. It's full, right? It's really, really good. I'm probably gonna finish these. I have to stop baking because I'm gonna start getting, probably unhealthy at a certain point. If I'm being honest, I'd probably have to give these maybe a 9 out of 10. The only thing I would maybe change is I would mix it a little bit more. I might add a little bit more blueberries, and I would use that fine cornmeal. So hopefully you give these blueberry cornmeal scones a go yourself. If you do, go ahead and tag me at HeyAJ on any of the socials. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this far, maybe much like. Maybe let the internet know, hey, I like AJ. I'm cool with him and his scones. And if you never want to miss another one of these videos, subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.